Chapter 25, Part 2, Ray Wilson's Farmhouse, Front Royal, Virginia. The assaulted were all present and accounted for, 30 in all. Young, old, white, black, Hispanic, Vietnamese, Christian, Jewish, men, women, rich, poor. That night a small stage was set up right next to the baby grand piano in what everyone would call the great room. This is where all strategy meetings, get-togethers, and parties would be. John Foster had connected the piano, which should have had a sign on it reading, "Property of Emily Curtis, do not touch," after she started playing it that first night, and 4 separate mics, 2 wireless, per Ray's request, along with several amplifiers. Musicians were in the house, most especially Nora and Christopher, who brought their guitars and banjo, and Peter with his ukulele. Tonight was all about introductions. After a huge meal of steaks and veggies with a welcome team chocolate cake, the team gathered and Ray asked everyone to introduce themselves, where they were from, why they were on the assaulted site, and anything else they'd like to say. Ray did have a caveat. "We've got some talkers in this room. Now when my phone here plays a little ditty into this mic, it's time to pass yours to the next person." Laughter. Everyone looking at Leah, Darlene, Peter, who took the night off, Jerry, and a surprising Elizabeth. It was the tequila talking, she'd say the next morning. The introductions went well. Big applause for Maxine, who curtsied. There were some quiet ones. There were some surprising ones. Emily, describing why she was on the site, said, "I watched him kill a kid, then not kill me because he liked my music." John Foster said, "I was a cop that had the opportunity to kill a killer. Instead, I lit the fuse that caused 5 people to die." Peter Lidenskit's reason was, "I was the luckiest bloke in the world. I got to entertain children, 20 of which were killed in their school." Leah, whom most everyone recognized to big applause. "Thanks. Because I was famous, I got to cut in line in a movie theater in Colorado. Cost a guy his life, and me my career." Surprisingly, normally quiet Henry Johnson said, "I was the central target at accent signage, then watched my close friends," a nod to Nora and Christopher, "bury their 2 talented sons." Finally, it was Ray's turn. As Maxine handed the mic to him, standing on that small stage, it was Hong Duc Lam who first stood, followed by Joe Fratelli, then Emily Curtis, then everyone, a prolonged standing ovation. Smiling, Ray looked around, then motioned them to sit, then, "Sit your asses down," channeling his inner Richard Pryor. He then gave what would be called by all who were there the speech. Thank you all very much. You won't feel that way all the time, so I appreciate it now." Laughter. "My name is Ray Wilson, and I've traveled this country meeting all of you except for Denise and Daryl. To both of you, welcome to the assaulted." Applause from the group. "I look forward to getting to know you better in the next month." "Why am I here?" "First, I live here." Laughter. "Nice digs, huh?" Applause. "Thanks. If you need anything while you're here, just let me know. I'm here because I lost my wife, Marion, in Antioch, Texas, on April 22nd, 2018. She was my life. She was my everything. Like everyone in this room, you've lost something. Maybe you didn't lose a loved one. Maybe you lost part of yourself, part of who you are. It's weird to say this, so forgive me, but maybe you lost some or all of your innocence. The world became a mean, ugly place on the day of your tragedy, just like it did with mine. Almost all of you have been haunted by PTSD from my dear friend Maxine on, which in a way is so terribly unfair. You've been to hell. You've been physically climbing out of that hole, and now your mind wants to fuck with you. As an aside, I like to swear. "Yes, he does," yelled Maxine from the front. Laughter. "To those of you offended, I apologize, but that's the only way I know to describe the terror your brain puts you through. There are several things that unite us all. 1, we have a great mentor on the Assaulted website. Standing ovation for an embarrassed Maxine. She deserves that. You're the best, Max. Titters. Yeah, I call her Max. Come on. She looks like a Max. Laughter. Second, the exact same response from Washington occurred after each of our tragedies. Let me be sure I'm correct on that one. Nora, what happened after Las Vegas? Nothing. David, what happened after Sutherland? Nothing. Hey, Bob, what happened after the Sikh temple? Nothing. Last one. Hey, Peter. The unspoken question. The president cried, Ray. Then nothing. Nothing. Nothing happens. Congress does nothing. You could name them all and the answer would be the same. Nothing. Nothing happens. Why? Everyone in this room knows why. But first, I want to clear up any misconceptions anyone has about why I'm doing this. I live in Front Royal, Virginia. As you could clearly surmise from your ride to the farmhouse, you're in a rural part of the state. People hunt here. It's not my thing, but I have nothing against folks that do. People have weapons to protect their homes. I understand. You're miles from help, from the police. A single-shot revolver, a hunting rifle locked away so your kids don't do damage to themselves. I understand. No problem. We are not here to take away those weapons for those reasons. We are here to stop the extremely easy sale of semi-automatic rifles and pistols. We are here to stop the sale of 20 and 30 bullet magazines. We are here to put into place a national registry that potential gun owners will have to submit to purchase a firearm. Why haven't any of these common sense measures been enacted? Because if they had been enacted, maybe some of our tragedies don't happen. Maybe we aren't even here. Maybe, just maybe, you and I and others aren't affected. Our lives aren't forever changed. Nope, not going to happen. Why? The National Rifle Association, the most powerful lobby in the country. Every time an event, a shooting, a massacre, whatever you want to call it occurs, what do we hear? A similar, if not word-for-word refrain. Guns don't kill people. People kill people. Ray looked long and hard at everyone in the room. Okay, let's test their theory. They have no clue what it's like to mourn a loved one after gun violence. They have no idea what it feels like to be attacked in their church, in their school, in a theater, at a concert, in a club, at their workplace. Applause. Oh, but they will. Standing ovation. Then, only then, will these senseless tragedies stop. Lives will remain whole and will not be broken mentally or physically. Congress will enact serious gun legislation when the NRA gets a taste of what you've suffered. Change will come. We start work tomorrow morning. Get some rest. Good night. Another standing ovation. Maxine, Leah, and Darlene were rooming together in the second house. Leah said, "Where the fuck did he learn to speak like that? Holy shit!" Maxine, "Fuck if I know, but damn, that was good." Darlene, "Sold me and I was already sold." Laughter from all three. Leah, "He got me hot. Let's have a pillow fight." Laughter. Maybe a little less from Maxine. Thursday the 4th brought together the complete team, less Cindy and Larry, who would join them in the late afternoon. Peter would be there every day for 4 hours, then head into work. Core training from Joe Fratelli, weapons training from Stacy McClure and Ron Terrence, electronics training and practice from John Foster, training as well for Ray and Maxine, but also a chance to reevaluate their initial team pairings. John Foster was set on intercommunications. Just needed to figure out if he'd be in an office or auto. As of the 4th, Nora, Christopher, and Henry would be a unit. Add James John Smith. The white bread team, joked Maxine. Joe Fratelli was penciled in as their leader. Les and Donnie were in the bus. That question remained as always. Can we get them out before we blow the bus? David had some ideas he was working on. Unspoken but important was, what do we blow the bus up with? Stacy, Jerry, and Remy had their assignment. Can we get them out of the building? Amy and Cindy seemed to have bonded with Bob Williams on their flight. Maxine saw David Hedrick with them. Ray was leaning toward Darlene as their leader, with Leah heading the Florida Brigade on the D.C. assault with Elizabeth and Emily, who were getting along well. Just as I thought, said Ray to Maxine. His leaders were coming into focus. Joe Fratelli, Ron Terrence, Leah Copeland, Darlene Richardson, with only Ron unspoken for in Ray's mind. The assaulted without teams now were Chewy Hernandez, Poppy Perez, Hong Duck Lem, and the two newbies, Denise and Daryl. Starting the 4th, 2 meetings would be held per day, 1 a.m., 1 p.m. And initially, those meetings were Ray and Maxine with the leaders, getting their feelings on how everyone was doing, strengths and the weaknesses. Later, those meetings would be with the whole assaulted team, reviewing plans, reviewing strategies, getting feedback, especially if someone wasn't comfortable with their initial assignment. At this point, there were plenty of time to move people around so they'd be as comfortable as possible with what they were going to do. After 3 days of intense training, usually there would be a full day off, where Lucille, Ron Terrence's driver, would take them to D.C. or Old Town, Virginia, or even a drive and a picnic in the Shenandoah. Did tempers flare? Yes. Did people get irritated and short with each other? Absolutely. That's where Maxine Timmons shone. Any challenges, she got the parties in a room, confronted the issue, and no matter how long it took, made sure everything was resolved before the parties walked out. If Ray saw trouble, his words were simple. Not here, goddammit. Go see Maxine. Ron decided early on that what an assaulted would carry in the way of firepower would correlate with comfort level and range score. The only exception would be the cases of Cindy, Larry, and Peter. Since they would already be in the building, they couldn't very well carry an AK-47 down the hallways. It was decided Peter would deliver the weapons very early Wednesday morning, November 7th. He would bring in 4 of the Beretta APX semi-automatics with silencers and 8 21-round magazines, 1 for each of them with 2 magazines apiece, plus an extra in case of a jam. Cindy had her own office, specially constructed for her wheelchair. The bottom drawer of her desk on the right side would have a sweater in it. He was to tuck the firepower there with the sweater on top. By that point, they'd know what time to grab them. The training everyone received on the weapons was the perfect combination of Lieutenant Stacy McClure, retired, national championship winner, trainer of thousands of young Army men and women, and Samuel Ronald Terrence, 3 names, notorious hitman, murderer of men, women, and children, who had his own arsenal, including bazooka, hidden in the walls of his South Carolina home. Still, the book versus the street. What to do if your weapon jams versus what to aim for, the body or the head. Be steady, be in proper position, be controlled versus, if you're in trouble, shoot the damn gun at where the trouble is now. Proper position versus comfortable position. Case in point, Leah Copeland. Her scores were terrible with her AR-15 up to her shoulders versus she could hit a dime on the wall shooting the same weapon from her hip. Stacy and Ron, working together, figured out why. Leah was conscious of her sagging face and didn't want to place anything close to it, much less a semi-automatic rifle. So, shooting from the hip it was. They made an excellent team. Joe Fratelli, however, was on his own. That's the way he liked it. When he was putting hundreds of potential firefighters through their paces, he didn't have any set formula and set requirements other than they all had to pass the standard physical fitness test and either put the damn fire out and or get the injured treated into a hospital ASAP. He didn't care how they did it, just that they did it as fast and efficiently as possible. He knew that the assaulted were headed into the most stressful situation they would ever face in their lives. He was bound and determined to get them in the absolute best physical shape they could possibly be in, so that being out of breath or being unable to perform a task due to fatigue would never be an issue. Joe was a firm believer in core training, performing specific exercises to strengthen the muscles in your midsection for strength and coordinated movement. As he would tell everyone, all powerful movements originate from the core of the body out. Plus, stamina training. Not long jogs, that's not what they'd be facing. Short, intense bursts of speed, up hills, around pylons, through obstacle courses. No jog, no stopping. Dead run, flat speed. Sprint 100 yards, walk 100 yards. Sprint 100 yards. For Cindy, it was upper body training. He wanted her to fly in that wheelchair if necessary. For Larry, Joe had him sprint while pushing his wife. They would scream at him. They would cuss him. On Tuesday, November 6th, to a person, they would say they were in the best physical condition of their lives because of Joe. Because of all this training going on, the food had to be healthy, prepared well, lots of protein, fewer carbohydrates, and lots of small meals a day, 5 or 6. However, Ray had consulted several personal trainer friends of his who incorporated diet into their workout strategy. To a person, they told him that when the body is going through training, every so often it needs a break. Per their recommendation, the assaulted would eat healthy, well-prepared meals. Every 6th day, no matter the day of the week, it was, as Chewy liked to say, Katie bar the door. That morning, everyone would wake up to the smell of bacon, sausage, maybe hotcakes, French toast, and always, because Ray Wilson had to have them, several plates of Krispy Kreme donuts, glazed vanilla cream, jelly-filled. At night, there'd be steaks, or Ray's barbecue, or 10 different kinds of pizza, or mac and cheese, and pies and cakes for dessert. Then they'd start all over again. As they became stronger and better conditioned, their fat and sweet cravings grew less until a plate of donuts that would have disappeared early in October were still halfway full in late October. Entertainment was never a challenge at the farmhouse, not with Emily Curtis on piano, nor in Christopher Anderson on stringed instruments, Peter Linscott on a night off and weekends, playing his ukulele, juggling, and making balloon animals for the first time in 6 years. Leah Copeland turning into famous comedian Lee Copeland at the drop of a hat. Huang Dut Lam giving cooking and demonstrations. Elizabeth Bloomfield telling backstage stories about folks at CNN and MSNBC. Not to mention the karaoke machine being put to good use almost every night. Almost everyone had a decent singing voice, so it was fun listening to Pappy, Chewy, Denise, and Donnie sing La Bamba, or Amy, Cindy, and Maxine singing Aretha's Respect. Even a slightly inebriated Bob Williams crooning a very passable I Left My Heart in San Francisco. But it was TV's Jerry Peters who put on a daily 15-minute show, interviewing members of the assaulted. Remy on camera, Stacy on sound, the results on a large screen in the great room. The three of them would have pre-written answers in their pockets. They'd ask a question. The interviewee would look struck dumb. A piece of paper would quickly be handed to them, and they'd read it. Sometimes funny, sometimes bawdy. Everyone was always a good sport since the questions always played against type. The last question always was, what do you miss now that you're at the farmhouse? Leah Copeland, my Bible study group on Wednesdays. James John Smith, hot 3 ways. Ray Wilson, pouring on the big screen. Joe Fratelli, mayonnaise sandwich on white bread. Emily Curtis, my side gig as a pole dancer. Elizabeth Bloomfield, while holding Jeter. My dog's at home. Amy Robinson, knitting and crocheting seminars in Las Vegas. Ron Terrence brought down the house with a delayed response. Being nasty to crackers. But I'll get my chance. Getting a 30-person group together under any circumstance is going to result in tensions of all kinds, including sexual. These were men and women eating well, getting in shape, yet having the underlying enormous stress of what they were attempting to do. For most of the time, if there was anything going on, it was extremely discreet. Even Ray had someone in his room. Peter would come back to the farmhouse after work, then stay on weekends. There were quiet, barely whispered rumors that Stacy and Daryl weren't just buddies, that Ron Terrence and Darlene Richardson seemed to end up on the same couch quite a bit. That left little Peter Linscott and tall Elizabeth Bloomfield might have figured out a way to alleviate their height differential. Leah Copeland loved hanging out with my Meskins, Chewy and Poppy. Perhaps Chewy a little more than Poppy. Denise Horford was right beside Hone Duck Lamb during his cooking exhibitions. The most interesting of pairings, per observers in the farmhouse, read Ray Maxey, were friends Amy Robinson and Cindy Cutler hanging out with 2 white breads, per Maxine, Bob Williams and Henry Johnson. Must be the Midwestern accent, said Ray. Nope, don't think that's it, said Maxine with a smile. Girls talk, after all. Then there was the rumor. The one everyone but two talked about. Ray and Maxine, the obvious pairing. The ones who'd put this together. The ones who complemented each other so well in almost every situation. The ones who'd been through so much, not only themselves but also with others. The ones who, everybody would agree, looked and acted like a couple. They'd disagree, they'd even fight. Not in front of the kids, though, said Leah. Then they'd appear arm in arm, firing weapons together, working out together, eating together, singing together. Maxine had agreed to sing an old guy's song with Ray if he'd sing one with her, so it was My Way, followed by a rollicking version of All the Single Ladies, with Ray keeping up, barely, with Maxine's dance moves. What the others didn't know was that they had talked about it. They don't know whether it was late at night, October 3rd, early in the morning of October 4th. Maxine couldn't sleep, literally. Leah and Darlene were snoring to beat all hell, so she slipped a pair of jeans sweatshirt and favorite skins cap, grabbed a book, and was headed to the main house to get a cup of tea and read, when the light caught someone sitting by the big oak tree. David had been kind enough to build a bench by Marian's grave, and there Ray sat, cup in hand, murmuring. Talking to Marian, she thought. She went in, fixed her tea, walked out. Can I join you? Ray, almost as though he thought she'd be there. Hi, please, sit down. What a great bench David built. Nice guy, hard worker. She sat. Talking to Marian? Yeah. Talking about tonight. Don't know where that fucking speech came from. You know. Yeah, she was a much better speaker than I ever was. That's the thing I said to her when I sat down. Thanks, baby. They sat for a while. Why you up, Max? Holy shit, those white girls snore! Laughs. Yeah, I can imagine. They weren't feeling any pain. No. Plus, you got them horny. What? How? That speech of yours, you got them all fired up. Leah joked about having a pillow fight. Well, in all the porn I've ever watched, pillow fights lead to hot lesbian love. Yeah, well, as you say, their eyes were blazing like Atlanta on fire. They laughed at that for a good minute or two. So, Ray, concerned about tomorrow? Nah, they'll be fine. I do have a question or comment. Hell, I don't know what it is. I know you and I have this weird kind of relationship going. Ray said, You think? Yeah, I keep getting asked, are you and Ray? And what do you tell him? I tell him the truth, that it's complicated, that it's great, that it's crazy, that it's exciting, but mainly that it's complicated. Ray was silent for a moment. Yeah, true. You and I never would have met if I hadn't been for Marian's death. You have helped me when I needed help, stood by me when I needed support, given me hell when I needed hell given to me, which is often. Yeah, again, true. I was telling Marian that I only have 35 days until I see her again. Then in the meantime, I'm going to be involved in something that's way bigger than me. Way bigger than you. Way so big that it involves every person in these two houses. 30 people potentially giving their lives so that others throughout the United States, 300 million people, won't have to go through what they did. 300 million. That would be pretty fucking spectacular. And I'm really proud to be a part of it. I'm proud of you. Thanks, Max. There's no way this even comes close to happening without you. So, they sat in silence for a minute. Max, you know what you mean to me. I know what I mean to you. I know our friendship is evolved into something far richer and, as far as I'm concerned, far better. For one of the few times in my life, I'm taking this down the road to what I can see as its logical conclusion. Maxine smiled. So let's see if I can put this in the proper perspective. You're thinking with your big head instead of your little head. For the second time in several days, Maxine had caught Ray with a mouthful of coffee. Spit, literally, then a guffaw. My God, Max, you're so fucking funny. Yes, I'm trying for once to act like an adult. Maxine chuckled. She knew her man. Okay, I understand. Let me tell you something. She held his hand, brought it to her lips, kissed it, held it. The moment you decide you want to stop thinking and just be for a while, don't you be going to no Darlene or Leah. You find me, okay? Ray kissed her hand back. Easiest promise I ever made. Love you, Max. Love you too, Ray. Don't be out here too late. She got up, walked back to the second house feeling like she'd just made love. She wasn't alone. On Wednesday, October 31st, Ray and John Foster headed to Fairfax to lease a small apartment across the street from 11250 Whipple's Mill Road. Ray had been watching the Fairfax Ridge development since June, and finally they had a corner apartment with a decent view of the building. This was to be John's base. His equipment, however, was portable and developed, tested, and completed as one assaulted station, with all communication heading through him. Only the leaders would have earpieces and mics. Ray, Maxine, Ron, Joe, Leah, Darlene, Peter, Cindy, and Larry would put the equipment on at 10:45 a.m. and let the leaders know the situation inside the building. Jerry would also have the earpiece in. He'd let the others know of any challenges in or out of the building, then to the top floor. As they were headed down Waples Mill Road, they caught their first glimpse of the NRA building. For Ray, it was like running into a familiar enemy. He and Maxine had been on 3 tours, and Peter had snuck them through the building after hours, so they both were familiar in case something happened to one or the other. Then Ray exclaimed, "Oh, shit." "What, Ray?" John, slow down. Watch the traffic pattern on the right. "Fuck. I can't believe I missed this." Cars and trucks heading to 11250 Waples Mill were first turning at 11244 Waples Mill, then traveling through an entrance between the 2 buildings and heading around the right side of the NRA building to the back, rather than heading through the front entrance between the 2 towers. John's reaction? Shit. Officers could outflank the bus and you in 2 seconds. No way I could see. The apartment would be useless. "What we need, John, is concrete pylons in place on Wednesday morning so that people can't get through the 11244 entrance and can't use the driveway between the 2. John, use that entrance. Let me just see." John pulled in 11244, made a quick left through the mini drive, a quick right, and headed to the back of the building. No problem. They parked in the back of the NRA, sat. Finally, John spoke. "Okay, I'm already going to be an accessory to first-degree murder." A sigh, a shrug. "Ray, I can get you your pylons both places by midnight on the 6th. "What? Really? How can you?" "Ray, after so many years on the force, you know people. You know who can and who can't help you. The less you know, the better. The only thing, and it's a big one, is I'll have to use my own name. The moment our assault hits the media, it's not going to take long for questions to come out about the illegal pylons. There will, in all probability, be a paper trail." "Maybe not. But if there is, it will lead to me. It won't take an experienced investigator more than about 5 minutes of computer work before he'll figure out what happened." "Ray, 1, are you willing to take that risk? And 2, how good are these IDs you're providing everyone?" "John, 1, we have to take that risk. You saw what I saw. There's no way we don't get chopped to pieces unless we do. 2nd, he turned, faced John, put his hand on John's shoulder. "I bought a bus, a fleet of cars, a mountain of plane tickets, more guns and ammo than in most National Guard units, and I'm about to rent you an apartment with the IDs Ron got us." Ray smiled. "I had this same kind of nervous conversation with Ron when we were heading to buy the bus in Pennsylvania. His answer was simple. Buy the bus, motherfucker, and see what happens. So, I bought the bus, checked my ID, since I was paying in cash. Nothing. Clean. When we get back, sidle up beside Ron and ask him your question." They both laughed. After they leased the apartment, 3rd floor, just above a tree on the corner, excellent view of the front of the building, they made their way back to the farmhouse. Ron was in his usual spot at the firing range, teaching the practical side of weapons training. John related the story to him, Ray's story about the bus, and asked Ron about the IDs. Ron frowned, then smiled, then placed both his hands on John's taller shoulders. "Detective, which is what Ron always called John, more for Ron's amusement than John's. "Why don't you try to get out of town, motherfucker, and see what happens?" Smile. "Gotcha, Ron. IDs are good." Ray would never remember whose idea it was. Leah, possibly, maybe Emily. Christopher might have mentioned it. Whoever had come up with it, it was brilliant. On Tuesday night, November 6th, instead of everyone sitting around tense and nervous, the whole team was going to have a feast, followed by a talent show, recorded by John, who also had to participate. He'd been quietly recording Emily's piano playing per Ray's instructions. Everyone had to participate. For the last 2 weeks, there had been rehearsals scheduled around target practice and workouts. For some, those rehearsals were like breathing. For others, it was like having a tooth pulled. But, and this was a big but, it took their minds off what was happening on the 7th. Actors have said many times that the secret to a great performance is to rehearse, and then forget it. Relax your mind and body, then you'll be ready. Ray and Maxine both knew the assaulted were ready. They all were in amazing shape. They were all very capable with the weapons they'd been carrying. They all knew their assignments. Now was the night to celebrate their excellent work. At their AM meeting on the 6th, Ray got up, stared at everyone for what seemed like hours, gave a quick nod to Ron, who went out to fire up the bus, then announced that "I'm sick and tired of seeing you people wearing clothes that are too damn big for you. Everybody get changed. Lucille's taking us to Tyson's Corner Center." Cheers from everyone. Those that had to change did so in about a minute, so many adults acting like kids. Since no one could use their own credit card, Ray supplied everyone with $500 each to spend on whatever they want. And just like David, some of them came back for more, which he had. They had lunch at Maggiano's Little Italy, then headed back to the farmhouse for naps, followed by the festivities that evening. Naps for some. As Ray had noticed with the donuts, some of the team had to sneak in one last workout, or one last shooting range practice, or one more 100-yard speed drill. In fact, most of the team did just that, including Ray, to work off the spaghetti and chicken parmigiana. Also, just because. If anyone had ever taken a poll of the assaulted and asked them when the best night of their stay at the farmhouse was, to a person they would have said Tuesday, November 6th. They were ready and focused. Because of that, they were also ready to have fun. It started with the meal. Ray now knew what everybody enjoyed, and that's what they got. If they were steak focused, it was porterhouse with garlic butter. If it was barbecue, there was ribs, brisket, and chicken. For vegetarians, there was butternut risotto with leeks and spinach and eggplant lasagna. Hung with Denise's sous chef was as happy as Ray was at his grill and smoker preparing individual pho with any ingredients they wanted. There were 3 desserts: fresh homemade apple pie, courtesy of Surprise, Chewy Hernandez; cherry cheesecake, courtesy of Darlene, who'd stolen the Ryan's Deli recipe; and angel food cake made from scratch with fresh whipped cream and strawberries, courtesy of Cindy and Larry, who made it at home before coming out to the farmhouse. Everyone was aware of tomorrow, so alcohol consumption was noticeably light, only by the talent show participants who might have needed a tiny bit of liquid courage to get through their segment. At 8 p.m., all 30 of the assaulted gathered in the great room. Emily sat at her piano, and Leah took the stage, first as Lee Copeland, then as mistress of ceremonies. Lee did 10 minutes poking fun at the big targets in the room: Ray, Maxine, Ron, Stacy, Joe. Also a little fun with Darlene. She also joked with those who she knew, a comedian knows, who can take it and who can't. Laughs were plenty. The crowd warmed up. First, keep them laughing with Chewy, Poppy, Denise, and Donnie in their even better rendition of La Bamba, with Denise being twirled around by Chewy and Poppy, who got twirled by Denise into the arms of Donnie. The crowd roared as Poppy rested his head on Donnie's chest with both hands on his butt. Huge ovation. Nice way to start the evening, Poppy coming out, Leah said, speaking of Donnie, his better half, Les Percival. Les was Les, smooth, calm, and confident. He did 10 minutes of how Donnie and he first met, lots of chuckles and ahs in the room, and an explanation of why Les and Donnie say pow to each other. Warm applause. Then came the Jerry, Stacy, Remy show with special guest Dr. Elizabeth Bloomfield. Tonight would be a very surprising twist. Jerry would ask the questions, Elizabeth would feign terror. The crew would hand her the answers, which were essentially oral pornography, which was hysterically funny coming from Elizabeth. She would read the filthy answer, then would tell the audience how that same answer would sound in the context of a real interview. It went a little over time, but no one cared. It showed Elizabeth's intelligence level. She's got a big brain, said Ray to Maxine, and her commitment. It took her, because of her challenges, a lot longer to memorize those answers. When it was over, Jerry, Stacy, and Remy stepped back and let Elizabeth feel the support and love from her teammates. First tears of the evening. Time for more music. Bob's I Left My Heart in San Francisco, and Amy, Cindy, and Maxine's Respect. Then came Nora, first without Christopher. Hi, everyone. My husband and I will be doing something we haven't done in a long time. Stop. Breath. Everyone has tragedy here. You know ours. Unfortunately, I had no one to take my anger out on except the one I love. Stop. Breath. The one I've always loved. This was a song Emily helped me find. Christopher and I used to watch this show on CBS. Just came to me. Laughter. From the TV show The Beauty and the Beast. To you, my love. With Emily accompanying her quietly on the piano, Nora sang the theme song to that show. The old couples in the room were holding hands. The new couples in the room were hanging on to each other. The applause was full of love. Christopher stepped on stage, took her face in his hands, and kissed her like he hadn't kissed her in years, followed by a tight hug, looking at each other, wiped tears off each other's faces. Christopher, another hand for my partner for life. Standing ovation. Now we get something a little different. I think we're going to do okay on this. What do you think, baby? We got this, babe. With Christopher on piano and Nora on guitar, with a little steady rhythm from Emily, they started dueling banjos. About a third of the way through, they suddenly tossed their instruments at each other and never missed a beat. 2/3 done, they tossed back. Everyone was on their feet clapping. They finished to a standing ovation. Arm in arm, they leave the stage. Next, Ron, Terrence, and Emily. Ron singing Georgia in a rich baritone, while Emily tried to throw some Ray Charles soul into her playing. Nice job, little girl, Ron said with a big smile. Leah. Honestly, everyone, this might be the act I've been waiting for. Ladies and gentlemen, Cindy and Larry. A ramp had been put in front. Cindy had a Washington Nationals cap on sideways. Larry had a fedora with a press card sticking out of it. They launched right into the famous Abbott and Costello Who's on First routine, and it killed. Their timing was great. They waited for the laughs at the right spots. They speeded up. They had the whole thing memorized. Leah stood there like a proud parent. She'd recently worked with them for 2 weeks. Secretly. They were perfect. Another standing ovation. Cindy. Thought I'd thank Coach Leah, getting us into mid-season shape. Applause and all shucks from Leah. And now our favorite balloon creator, magician, juggler of balls, the most popular guy in this room, Peter Lenskett. Applause. Serious Peter, no smile. Thank you very much. I don't know whether you know this or not, but I'm from England. Laughter. Over there we have a chap by the name of Anthony Newley who wrote some of the most beautiful songs. I thought about one of them on the way from work back here. Emily, who also deserves a standing ovation for all she's put into this show. A minute of everyone standing for blushing Emily. Found the lyrics to this song where she was delicately and professionally placed where I can read them if necessary. Laughter. This song, as far as I'm concerned, is about us. If at any point it's speaking to you, please stand. And then he started into, for once in my lifetime. By the end of the song, every single person was standing. At the end, everyone is up, crying, cheering. Peter bent over, sobbing. Elizabeth rushing on stage, holding him, let him cry it out. He signals for them to stop, holding Elizabeth's hand. Sorry, my friends, I was thinking. My little mates would be really proud of me tonight. Another loud ovation. Leah. I speak to you now as Lee Copeland, very well-seasoned comedian. How the fuck do you follow that? Laughter and applause. I know, Joe Fratelli. More laughter, applause. Joe starts. Oh, shit. Big laughter. There are a lot of heroes in this room. Peter, you are one of mine. Another standing ovation. Oh, let's not forget about Abbott and Costello back there, also in the belly of the beast. Standing ovation for Cindy and Larry. Okay, I'm Italian, which means I gotta sing something from St. Francis of Hoboken. He looks around. The youngins don't get it. Frank Sinatra. I'm looking around the room. Laughter. Puts on a fedora, has an unlit cigarette, and a rocks glass with Jack Daniels and 4 ice cubes. Sinatra's drink. This is for my little Spitfire and her sister from another mother. Then sings one for my baby, one more for the road. Smooth, perfect interlude. Nice ovation. Now I hear there's some other bum, some non-Italian old guy that wants to steal my thunder. Need my props? Everyone knows Ray's up, supposed to do Sinatra as well. No, Joe? Should be the only one doing Frank tonight. Applause. Me and Emily got something cooked up. Peter might heard of this guy. Rex Harrison? Peter. Americans doing Brits. It's supposed to be Brits doing Americans. Laughter. Night to night, my friend, this came to me the other day. I played Professor Higgins in My Fair Lady in high school. Most of you are familiar with it. If you're not, ask someone old near you. Laughter. This song occurs at the end of the play or movie when the professor realizes that without a certain someone in his life, he'd be lost. I've taken liberties with the song, getting rid of the crap you wouldn't get unless you saw it, with accompaniment by the amazing Emily Curtis. She does the intro, he paces the stage, stops, looks directly at Maxine and starts, damn, 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 damn. I've grown accustomed to her face. And then Maxine begins to cry. There was a piano solo, no one heard it. All they saw was Ray smiling at Maxine. Maxine with tears in her face smiling back at Ray. The solo ended. Ray began again, finished the song, and then standing ovation. Big hug from Maxine as Ray got off the stairs. Someone clinked a glass. Kiss during a reception for the wedding. Ray grabbed the mic from Leah. That'd be like watching your folks kiss. Laughter. Leah. Well, that certainly was surprising. Sent with a hint of sarcasm. Big laughter and applause. Leah couldn't tell if Maxine blushed. After that was David singing You'll Never Walk Alone. John singing the theme from the movie Arthur. Henry singing Singing in the Clouds, and Daryl singing You'll Be in My Heart. Leah hopped back up. Almost done. I was just thinking, I've never heard her sing before. The hardest working girl on this stage tonight? Emily Curtis. Standing ovation. She smiled, started with the intro, and began to sing in a clear, beautiful voice. She'd picked a Barbra Streisand tune from the movie Yentl. It's a song Yentl sings to her father during a trying time of her life. Her father had recently died. Every time Emily said the word Papa, she looked at Ray. When she finally finished the song, with everyone standing, everyone crying, everyone applauding, the last words were, Papa, watch me fly. The place erupts. Everyone, even hard-nosed men like Ron and Joe, are bawling, applauding, chanting her name. Emily, Emily, Emily. And Ray, keeping as much composure as he can, finds Leah and Elizabeth, and through tear-filled eyes gives them the look. You protect her. They both nod. Good. After everyone had settled down, Leah started with, Do I dare mention her name again? Loud sustained applause. Didn't have to. So there's one last act. Would someone please procure a chair from Mr. Wilson on the stage? After Ray sat down, all the while eyeing Leah, some would say warily, she laughed, Listen, Ray, if we were a company, we'd be giving you a gold watch, a set of golf clubs, maybe some cufflinks for all you've done for us. But there are those close to you who know very important things. So we're going to say thank you the only way we know how. Places everyone. Everyone moved around. 2 of the wireless mics were handed to Ron and to Joe. Emily started playing. Ray could feel emotions heading to the surface. The opening of Who Are You Waiting For? Each of the assaulted sang one line from the song. Then the piano solo from Emily. More beautiful, even than that long ago day in the Parkland High School music room. Ray was smiling and crying and mouthing the words with everyone. And then Maxine finished the song, and he lost it. The show was over. But not the night. It was long for everyone. For some, they spent it alone, either in their room or walking or sitting outside. Not afraid, ready, anxious, eager to go. For others, it was with someone to hold on to, someone to voice their fears to without giving the voice to them. As the 6th turned into the 7th, the assault that had started as a group of strangers, men and women from different states, different backgrounds, different sexes, colors, religions, financial stratas. They grew to like each other. They had been friends. Now they were closer. They had become a family.